Hello guys, welcome back. In this video, let us see lab on Redshift. How to create our Redshift cluster. Now for that, I'm just searching on Redshift. In this lab, we also see how to delete our Redshift cluster and how to resize our Redshift cluster as well. So currently I log in as a IAM user. Now you can see I already have one Redshift cluster on creation mode. Now I'm expecting to create a Redshift cluster. I want to show you configurations regarding creating your cluster. So here you can see an option is there, that is clusters. Just click on it. Under this, you entered into this tab. You can see at the right right side down an option that is create your Redshift cluster. Create cluster. You just click on there. Now you enter into this dashboard page where it shows you the options to create your Redshift cluster. You need to configure these options in order to create your Redshift cluster. First, you need to provide cluster configurations. Like, do you want to create, you need to provide your cluster name. In order to identify from multiple clusters, you need to provide some cluster name here. Now, I'm expected to provide my Redshift cluster name as Redshift cluster 1. If there are already clusters with that name, then you cannot able to create another cluster with the same. So I'm moving on with Redshift cluster. So you have seen, if there are already existing clusters with the same name, then you can able to create your Redshift cluster or not. You cannot able to create Redshift cluster with the same names. Then you can have option to choose the cluster resize. So currently I'm choosing on my, you have two options. You can choose on your own, or else you can take an help. That means you can choose in this way. By selecting the options, AWS will automatically calculate the configurations and chooses your required parameters, like how many nodes you want and what is the processing unit you want, instance type, and how many compute units and estimated charge. So all the details it will provide. So currently I'm expecting to choose on my own. So I just clicked on I'll choose. Here you can see the node type. So I'm selecting the node type. I'm expecting to use this DC2 large. So that's why I selected this. Now I'm expecting to provide number of nodes as one. Since it's a lab demo, I'm expecting to create only one node. Whereas in your production environment or test environment, if you have large data, then you need to choose more. So based on the choose number of nodes, you can get the storage as well as the cost. So currently I'm expecting to moving on with one node. If you choose more than one node, then one node will be for master node and another nodes will be for your computing. It designs like that. So currently I'm choosing one node. So it only acts like your master node and your compute nodes. This one node, in this one node only your processing and storage, whole thing will be happen. If you choose more than one node, then based on your specification, like one node will act as master and other nodes will be for computing. So I'm just choosing one for this lab fig. If you want to load any sample data, then you just click on it so that whenever your database cluster is created, then inside the database cluster, a sample data will be loaded. So now I'm just disabling it. And user configurations. So what is the user that you provide here? So by using that user only you can able to log in. So currently I'm providing my username as AWS user, or else you can choose your own username. Let's say I want to choose my username as admin. So I return that here. and you have three options for password. So in order to log into your Redshift database, Redshift cluster, and do some operations on your Redshift cluster databases, you need a username and password that you're configuring here. So for that configuration, you can use password from secrets manager, or else you can generate a new password by your own, or else you can manually type. You can even provide a chance to Redshift that generates you password, or else you can provide you a manual password. So currently I'm providing my manual password, that is I'm showing here. So currently I'm providing this password. You can see I'm providing this password in order to log in. For this lab sake, this is sufficient for me. So I just moving on with this password. And you can see cluster permissions. So for these cluster permissions, you can able to create your IAM roles and attach here those IAM roles in order to provide permissions for your cluster. Let's say you are expecting to provide S3 access to your Redshift cluster. That means, let's say you have a need that you store your database file under your S3. Now you are expecting to move your file from S3 to this Redshift cluster database. So to do that operation, this cluster require permission, right? In order to access S3, yes. That you can able to manage those permissions by associating IAM role here. Let's say I have already created a role to access that. Then you can click here to associate. You have two permissions. I'm just selecting a permission where in this permission, I've already provided a S3 get object. That means from S3, in order to read permission I have given for this IAM role. You can see the permission also. So I have given get permission as well as a list permission for this IAM role. And now I'm attaching that particular IAM role to this. So I'm just associating it. So like this, you can able to associate resource permissions, other services permissions to this cluster in order to access those other services from this cluster. And you also have additional configurations. You can use a default additional configurations, or you can disable this, and you can even manually provide your network and security for your cluster. Under which network you want to put your cluster, under which VPC you want to put your cluster, and under which subnet you want to put your cluster. So while accessing, if any user is having that IAM permissions to move into this security group and to this VPC, that person only able to access this cluster. And you can even have additional availability of availability zone preference. If you have any, then you can able to choose this as well. You also have enhanced VPC routing. If you enable this option, then routes, then your network traffic routes only between your cluster and data repositories through your VPC instead of internet. If you on this routing, then your network traffic will move through your VPC only. And you can even able to specify public accessibility by turn on this, and you can even provide your elastic IP address to particular public where you want to provide access to this cluster. I'm just disabling it. So here you have networking and security options, and you also have database configurations, like what is the name of your database, and from which port you are expecting to access that database, and parameter group. You can even select your own parameter group if you have in your database. if you want to use for your database for querying. And you can also have an option to use KMS service for encrypting your cluster's data. If you select this, then it will ask you to select one of the KMS key. That is you can use a default Redshift key, or else you can able to choose one of the KMS key that you already have. Currently, I'm not having any key, so I'm not choosing it. So currently, I'm disabling this encryption. In this way, you can able to provide encryption for your data as well, which is present in your Redshift clusters. You can even provide maintenance window, and you can even take care of monitoring by creating alarms about disk utilization, how much disk you utilize. Based on that, you can even able to provide trigger alarms, and you can able to create SNS topic, and you can able to get messages or emails from that SNS topic. So currently I'm not requiring any monitoring alarm, so I just removed it as well. You also have backup options to select, and how many days retention period that you selected, those many days that backup will be present. You also have zero option, and you also have 35 days option. So from 0 to 35 days, you can able to create backup. And if you want to take manually these snapshots, then you have indefinitely, infinitely, or else if you want to take every 1 day or every 7 days, that you can able to take, or else if you want to provide custom value for taking this snapshots, then you can able to provide from this option. And you also have configure cross region snapshot. If you enable this, then your snapshots will also be available in the selected region that you provided here. Currently, I'm not expecting, so I'm just selecting no, and just click on create cluster. That's it. So after configuring these details, you can get your cluster that is to be created. So for creating what you provided cluster configurations like cluster name and cluster related node type and number of nodes you want. And you provided sample data details and database configurations, that is by using which user and which user password you are trying to log into that particular database that is created under your Redshift. And the cluster permissions, that is if you want to access other services by using this cluster, you can able to provide those IAM role permissions here by attaching or associating those IAM roles to this cluster. And additional configurations like NICU, you can use the default configurations, or else you can even provide your own configurations for networking by selecting the default VPC and which subnet you want. So those all details you can able to select, and security group also you can able to select. And configurations like Redshift parameters, you can, if you want to access, then you can able to access by selecting this. You can even store your parameters in the parameter group, and you can able to access those parameters in this by using this configurations option. You can even take backups, and there you can able to select the retention period as well. So those are the things, details that we must need to provide, and just need to click on create a cluster. Currently, I'm having one cluster, so I'm not creating another. I'm just moving on with that cluster. So I'm canceling this option. Now you can see I have one cluster. Now I'm just reloading this cluster so that it will comes to active state. Yeah, it will comes to available state. You can see under Redshift clusters in my account, I have this cluster available. And if you are accessing from other AWS accounts, you can able to access them by using manage endpoint. By using this managed endpoints, you can able to access. So first you need to provide the connection relation details, and then you can have ability to create your own custom endpoint as well. So after creating this VPC endpoints, you can able to get that particular cluster in your account as well, and from your account you can able to access that cluster as well. So currently I'm moving back with our cluster. We have an option that is to see the clusters. Under clusters you have the clusters. I just selected this. Now we just entered into the clusters dashboard, Amazon Redshift clusters dashboard. We can able to analyze the connection details to your Redshift cluster. That means you can able to query by using this query editor, and you have the options of your tools like Redshift cluster name. By using this, you can able to connect, and you can also choose these drivers to connect. You have your cluster available here. You can also see for querying the data, you have these options like query editor V2, and queries and loads. And for cluster related snapshots or reserved nodes, you can have these options. You can have Redshift serverless option as well to create. So now you can see multiple options also available: IAM center connections and configurations to manage your workload, and subnets or HSMs, partner integrations. Currently, I'm moving on with my cluster, available cluster, and I'd like to analyze the details in it, and I'd like to delete it as well, delete this created cluster as well. You can see the general information like a cluster name is available. By using this, you can able to identify your cluster from multiple clusters, and you have this endpoint. So remember, by using this endpoint only, we can able to connect to this cluster. So don't worry, we'll connect to this cluster by using this endpoint. And you also have node details and number of nodes, those you have, and creation date, and how much storage you use. That also you can able to see from here. So, and you also have cluster metrics. Those are available here. So CPU utilization, percentage of disk storage you use, and commands that you executed, and queries, definitions, and health status. So those also you can able to see from this. You can have multiple options for query monitoring, and you also have database details. So tables and views, schemas, those all you can able to see from here. So let's move on to how to resize this cluster. Is there any option for that? Let's say I'm expecting more number of nodes than currently provided. For that, you have a resize option. Just click on it. There you can see classic resize option is available, and elastic resize option is also available for you. So based on your requirement, you can choose one of the option, and you can able to provide this resize. So if you want elastic resize, then you can able to provide that resize. So schedule based, you can able to resize later, or resize recurring, resize events, or resize the cluster based on now only. So you can able to resize like this. By resizing type, you can able to resize here, and you can classically resize your cluster. So here you can able to provide the number of cluster nodes you want. So I have provided like this, right? So like that you can able to provide, and you just click on resize cluster option, so that your cluster will be resized. I'm just canceling it. Currently, I'm not expecting to resize. You can even have an option to delete the cluster. So you just click on it. So to delete the cluster, you just write a delete option here and just click on delete so that your cluster will be deleted easily. Now, now in this video, let us also see how to connect to this created Redshift cluster. So before deleting this cluster, let's see that option as well. How to connect it to this Redshift cluster in order to perform any operations. That means in order to put some data in it or put some data in the database, like creating tables and modifying the tables. Now let's first see how to connect it. So for that, you can use EC2 instance Linux machines to connect to this. Now I've already created one of the EC2 instance to connect to this. So I'm just opening my EC2 dashboard. Under this EC2, you have some running instances. I have already one running instance. I'm just selecting this. You can see I have one running EC2 instance. I just selected this option, and now you can see on top right corner an option is there to connect. So just click on connect so that you entered into this. Now I'm just expecting to connect to this by using this EC2 instance connect option. So I'm just clicking on connect. Now directly your connection will be established from AWS management console. You can see establishing connection. So now I connected to my Linux machine, right? Yes. So from this Linux machine, you can able to connect it to your Redshift cluster and you can able to perform actions on your Redshift cluster. So let's see how to connect. So by using what command we can able to connect to our Redshift cluster. Basically, you are operating or connecting or performing any queries by using Postgres SQL command. So in order to connect to your EC2, that means Redshift cluster, first you write PSQL, that is Postgres SQL command. And by using what user you are expecting to connect, that user you can able to provide here, that user name. Let's say I'm expecting to connect with the username CA student. So I have provided that name. This username you need to provide while creating your Redshift. So since I provided this name while creating my Redshift cluster one, so by using that name only, that username only, and that user password only, I can able to connect it to my Redshift. So that's why I provided this username and Postgres, Postgre SQL, so colon double slash. Here you need to provide your Redshift cluster endpoint. So for that, I'm just moving on to Redshift cluster again. So I'm just opening my Redshift cluster again. I opened my Redshift cluster and you can see endpoint available here. So by using this endpoint only, you can able to connect. So just copy this endpoint. You can see my endpoint is copied. Now I'm moving on again back to that my EC2 instance. Now I'm just pasting that. So for pasting, you have Control Shift V. So by using that, you can able to paste that. I just pasted exactly what it was. You can see it provides you cluster name and some key and in which region that cluster was and what is that? That's a Redshift Amazon AWS.com. And by using this port, you are connecting and this is the database that you are connecting. In that Redshift, for this database, you are connecting. I'm just clicking on enter. So whenever you click on enter, it asks you password for that particular user. So here you need to provide the password. Now I am just writing my password. So you can see my connection is established. This username and password, whatever I entered, that will be created by you only whenever you are creating your Redshift cluster. You can see whenever I am creating my Redshift cluster, I have also provided these user credentials. So database, under database credentials, I have provided a username and password, right? So those two are these. This is that username, and here you need to provide that password and just click on enter so that you can able to connect to your database. This is one way to connect. I can also show you another way. So click on Control Z in order to move out from your connection. So this is one command to connect, and you also have one more command, that is PSQL host, that is Postgres SQL host. What is your host that you need to paste here? So you have previously copied your Postgres SQL, that is what endpoint, right? Your Redshift cluster endpoint, that again you need to paste here, and here you need to mention this is your host from here till here.com. So till here, that is your host, and this 5439, this is nothing but your port number. By using this port number only, you are connecting. So that you specify as P, which indicates your port, and this cared shift lab, this is nothing but your database. So you can able to specify that as well, and you need to provide the user by using what user you are connecting to this host through this port number to this database. So currently I'm connecting by using what user, CA student. So you again need to provide that name as well, and just click on enter so that it again asks you for password. So here also you need to provide the password. I provided my password and just clicked on enter. So remember, here password is not visible to you whenever you are entering also. So don't worry, you just type, it was entered but not visible, that's it. After typing your password, just click on enter so that your connection will be established. You can see I'm in cared shift lab. So previously where I am while typing this, I'm in EC2 user, but now I connected to my cared shift lab. So let's say I want to list all my databases which are present in my present, which are present in my Redshift cluster. For that, you have /L. By using this command, you can able to list. You can see I have these databases and 6 more rows also available. Let's say you want to see all the rows in expand mode you want to see. For that, you also have expand mode on option. /x specifies expand mode. You can able to on that as well. And now you can able to list so that you can able to see them other way. This is what, this is a table format, that is a first row indicates your column names, and in each row you have column related values, right? Whereas here each and every record will be individually came, right? So after expanding, you can able to get all 6 records in this format. You can able to even off your expansion mode as well. So in this way you can off, and you can again list them as well. You can see you get them in normal mode. So like this, you have seen how to connect to your Redshift cluster by using EC2 Linux machine, right? Yes. So these are the two ways where you can able to connect to your EC2 by using this EC2 Linux machine to your Redshift cluster that you have already created. You have also seen how to create your Redshift cluster and resize your Redshift cluster after creating your Redshift cluster. And you also seen how to delete your Redshift cluster from this video. Now, in this video only, let us see one more thing. That is, let's say I have my data in S3 and I want to get the data from S3 to this Redshift database. So for that, now I'm expected to create one table here, right? Yes, I need to create one table, and in the table, I want to get the data which is present in S3 bucket, S3 file, that is S3 object. Now let's see how to do that. So don't focus on SQL queries. Don't worry, I'll tell you in the next video what are the SQL queries that you use to do all the operations in this Redshift cluster. So currently in this video, just focus on how to move. That means how to move by using what command you can able to get the data from S3 object file to this current Redshift cluster database tables. Now I'm just pasting one command to create one table in this Redshift cluster. Now I just pasted one command. It basically creates a user table with these columns, that is user ID, username, first name, last name, city, state, email, phone number. So in real time, your data will be like this only. So don't worry, I'll tell you more detail about these queries in next video. So currently focus on how to get the data into this table. So I've already, now I just created my table, that is create a table. So this users table is created. You can also see that by using this dt command. So database tables, you can see the users table, name of the table is this, and this is a table which is present in this owner. Now what I'm expecting is I'm just expecting to get the data from S3 and move that data to this. I want to load that data to this table. So for that also I'm just pasting on. You can see I have my file which is present in this location. In S3 ticket all users dot txt. I have my file in S3 which is in text format. Now I am expecting to copy that data to users table that I have just created. So for that, you need to write this command, copy users from where? From this S3 file. You can see S3 object. So I just provided my object related endpoint, and I provided to where I want to copy. That is to this table I want to copy, that also I provided. So in order to get this S3 file, we need to provide some credentials, right? Yes. So that credentials are these. You need to provide from here credentials. So within the single quotes, you need to provide AWS IAM role is equals to, you have seen, you have created one IAM role for this in the cluster creation time. So by using that role, now you are expecting to get this data from S3. So that credentials you need to provide role credentials in order to get the data, and you need to provide the delimiter as well, and you need to provide in which region this S3 bucket is. So that also you need to provide. So you can see just these details you need to provide to get this data from S3 file to your table which is present in Redshift. Now I'm just entering. You can see load into table, that is what users table is completed. So these many records loaded successfully to my users table from this file, right? So in this way, you can able to copy the data which is present in S3 bucket to the tables which you are created in your Redshift cluster. In real time, you're gonna do this many times whenever you're implementing a project. So remember this command, that is copy users, copy table name to where you want to copy that table name, copy destination table name from, so from what source file that you want to copy, that you need to provide, and by using what credentials you are accepting this file, that also you need to provide under credentials, and delimiter indicates the separation of your data, and region indicates in which region your service or resource will be present that you need to specify here. So that's it. You got your table. And you can even see that data which is present in your users. So that you copied. You can see a lot of data you're getting more and more. So just enter so that you got lot of data. So these all data you just loaded by using that simple command. Now I'm just clicking on Q. That means I just quit and just clear the screen, expecting to clear. For that, / this colon and just write CLE command. So to clear the screen, you can see my screen is cleared. Yeah, I'm here. So like that, you can able to copy the data from files which are present in S3 to any tables which are present in Redshift. Then after getting that lot of data into your table, you can able to query that data from here. So don't worry, in the next lab, I will tell you the most important queries that you're gonna use in this Redshift most casually, whatever you use in your company level, those I gonna tell you in the next lab. So now I'm just going to delete my Redshift cluster. You can see I have one Redshift cluster, right? So now I'm just deleting that cluster so that you can see under clusters. Now I'm just clicking on cluster. Currently I'm available on that page only, but for to show you, I'm just came back and you can, one more point, you can able to analyze. So analyze the query related data, how much queries you run. So you just open that cluster. In that cluster, you can see previously at starting, you have 0.02% of storage is used. Now you have used 0.03% of your storage. That is 0.05 GB you used out of 160 GB that you can able to analyze from here. And you can even able to monitor the metrics, cluster related metrics. Next, you have an option that is query monitoring. In this query monitoring, you can see the monitoring related to your queries and what are the queries that you executed in your cluster also you can able to see from here. So just click on any one of the query, then you can get the query related details. That is what query you have executed. Those related details you can able to see by clicking that in this. So currently it is loading. You can see the query command that I have provided that is available here. So this is the query command that I have provided to copy the data from S3 bucket by using these credentials, which is present in this region, to this users table. So that query is available here. You can able to copy and execute this command in future if you require. And this query related details are available here. You can see the execution details also available here. It will run up. It will run. It takes 817 milliseconds to run. And query plan also you can see healthy, and CPU utilized, that also you can able to see from here, and storage capacity and active database connections. So you can able to see query related details as well. I'm just moving on to my cluster. So that's the thing about your query monitoring. Database performance you can able to see. So you have multiple options here to analyze. So now just delete this cluster. Since I have created my cluster and I have done all operations by connecting to that cluster by using EC2 instance, now I'm just expecting to delete that. So I just click on delete. You can see multiple options also there. That is a reboot option there, pause option there, and delete option there. Backup options also available under actions, permissions, versioning, usage, manage usage limit also you can. So I'm just deleting now since all my works are done. After all your works are done, you can able to create a snapshot before deleting. By using that snapshot, you can able to recover your database cluster as well, Redshift cluster as well back. Currently, I'm not expecting any backups here because it's a demo purpose created. Now I'm just deleting this. So I just return delete confirmation. So return and just clicking on delete cluster. You can see the Redshift cluster is deleting. The status is under modifying state. You can open your clusters. Under your clusters, your status becomes modifying state. Now, after this, sometime it will be deleted. So this is the way where you can able to delete your cluster as well. I hope you understood this video and you got some knowledge on Redshift, how to create your Redshift and how to connect to your Redshift by using EC2 instance, how to get the data which is present in S3 files by using PSQL command, Postgres SQL command in Redshift. I hope you got knowledge on that and you also get the knowledge of how to resize your cluster by using what option you can resize and how to delete your Redshift cluster as well. So I hope this video is understanding to you and you got some knowledge or knowledge recap from this video. If you feel this video is contentful, then please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. Thanks for watching. Again, see you back in the next video with another interesting topic. Until then, bye bye, guys.